All right. Well, we're back. It's Inside BBI with John and Eric. It's a Saturday morning. It's off our normal routine. Well, actually, this has become routine, Eric. So yes, we're back. We're good. And I'm John McDevitt. With me, as always, senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. And I don't know if you have anything prepared. I went with a kick-ass. No, you didn't again. I went with a kid. It's gonna make me look bad, dude. But anyway, I used some of those old photos from the Philadelphia game to get us excited about the Philadelphia game. And but before we do that, let's just I want to get caught up real quick. I'm gonna do things in reverse. I actually created something. I want to take a quick look at the landscape. We're gonna look at the NFC East, look at the NFC, look at the schedules. Then we'll get specifically to the game. So that being said, let's just really quickly, I'm going to throw this up here. We're going to take a look at I put this together real quick. Landscape overall, as you can see, the NFC East. What I think is funny is that there's borderline 2020 vibes with the East itself. It's possible, depending on how some of these things shake out the rest of the season, that we might have like a 9-win team win this division if things kind of keep going where you'll see what I mean in a minute when we look at the schedules and stuff where they play each other. But this division is certainly not the strongest division in the conference. That would be the North. The West is right there as well. I think those two alone. The South and the East are kind of playing a little catch up, but you can see where everything is across the league. Minnesota did pick up another loss, so they're sitting at 3-4. There's a team that's not performing the way you would have expected. That being said, here's just for the NFC games this weekend. I just wanted to highlight that, as already the Chargers have beaten the Vikings. Giants and Eagles play each other. That's a big game. A couple of the other games that really stand out. Dallas goes to Denver. That's another big one right there in terms of the East. Pittsburgh and Green Bay, that's an interesting one for the NFC itself. Green Bay currently sits atop the North with only one loss. They do have the one tie with Dallas. And then Washington plays Kansas City. Washington will not have Jaden Daniels again for that game. I think people are overblowing a little bit. Dallas, based on what they did against Washington. Keep in mind, Washington basically was down 3 wide receivers. Noah Brown was already on IR. Debo Samuel and Terry McLaurin did not play, and Jaden Daniels got hurt during the game. So the fact that they didn't exactly play with a full team against the Cowboys. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out. But what I thought is a little more interesting is, first off, I talked about it before for the Giants. Everything is in 6 weeks blocks. The first block, it actually was a little bit better than what you would think from a feeling standpoint. Dart came in much sooner than we thought, Eric, and they could have beaten the Cowboys with Russell Wilson. They certainly should have beaten the Saints with the way it started out. They just gave the ball away over and over again. And we dominated the Chargers, played very well against the Eagles, and won that game solidly, really. We controlled the game from the middle of the second quarter on. So overall, there was some good feeling. At the start of the next 6 block, however, it started with, sunshine, rainbows, roses, flowers, chocolates. There was some champagne. And then the fourth quarter of that game with the Broncos happened, and that kind of soured it. But it is still a different feeling with Dart, at least. I think you kind of point that out as well. That's going to be the focal point of the team going forward. But this 6 block right here is what's really important for the Giants right now. It'll determine whatever happens, I think, with Dayball and whatever happens with this team going forward. We can talk about all this in just a sec. But I say overall, though, from here, I mean, if the Giants even want to be remotely relevant in terms of like just talking about the conference, which again, there are a lot of teams that are not that great. They're kind of mid-level teams. They got to be at least 3-3 in this block and probably 4-2. And considering you lost the first game, that's a tall order.
Yeah, it's not good. So you're a big movie fan, and you ever see the movie Midnight Run?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
One of my favorite lines is, am I talking to moron number 1 or moron number 2? I keep thinking about that when thinking of Shane Bowen and Brian Daboll right now. So
nice.
I mean, the Giants, you love to play the what if game since we've started this. And I generally don't like to do that, but the Giants very easily could have 3 more wins. And it's a shame that they don't. But it's at least 2 of those 3 losses are on the coaching staff, in my opinion. I think the Saints loss is on the players for not holding on to the football. You can't blame the coaches on that, but you can blame the other 2 losses on just moronic decision making. And I keep saying it over and over again that Brian Daboll's inability to pick a defensive coordinator is sabotaged this team. Now, whether they can survive this or not, I don't know. But we should be going into this Eagles game psyched up and pumped up and like really fired up, because we should have come off beating the Eagles, beating the Broncos in Denver, scoring 5 touchdowns and just being psyched. And here we are going, just like somebody said above, Eric has a shell shock look. That's his normal look. A little bit, this week, to me, I just tuned a lot of this. I mean, I appreciate John looking at the big picture, but one of my big issues as a fan is when the Giants come off a catastrophic loss like this, my interest in football that week in general goes down. I turned on the Vikings Thursday night game briefly, but my heart wasn't in it because I'm still pissed off about the Broncos game. So I appreciate putting that all together. Can you bring up the chart again on the NFC picture?
Sure. I still have one more chart we'll go to at the end. But yeah, okay. No, you're fine. You're fine.
The one that has the divisions, if you got it.
Yeah, right there.
Philadelphia wins this week. They'll be 6-2. They'll be happy with that. If we sweep them, which I still think would be a possibility if we didn't have the injury issues on defense. We'll get into that in a second. Though AJ Brown's out too. It's just a damn shame. We should be at least 3-4, and probably 4-3. I would argue they could even really be 5-2 right now, but that might have affected the quarterback switch too. So yeah, it's interesting looking at there really aren't any really super dominant teams, at least in the NFC right now, which is a darn shame for the Giants because they could be kind of in the picture.
True. A couple things. One, I actually felt better towards the end of this week, Thursday, Friday. I started to feel a little bit better about things. Not the way the game went. It was disappointing on there. You can see a series of things, but I've watched. It's a sickness. I've watched that game, a condensed version of it and an all 22 version of it, a couple of different times. There were some things I think that just shockingly went the wrong way at the end on them in a way that you really. I don't know how much you can blame coaches at the end for a couple of things. When I watched the way they played, you watch an Andrew Phillips suddenly stop really giving an effort. He doesn't make a tie. He just kind of lazily touches them. I don't know what that was all about. Were they tired? Were they just had they played so much at that point and it was, they became exhausted? I don't know. I mean, that's Denver was on the field the whole time too. So, and they came back from overseas. So I don't know how much the Giants can use that as an excuse. I feel like some guys just they didn't do their jobs. And yes, I would absolutely have rushed 4 at least. Certainly one more in the middle, just so a shorter quarterback who's already had deflection problems throughout the entire game can't just step forward and throw the ball down the field, because time and distance is on your side. So the thing you don't want is a big chunk of play that doesn't take a lot of time. And that's exactly what they gave up. But if you go in the middle, you kind of take – anyway, there was a couple other things too that I thought, man, that was just – but the thing about this team that I saw, though, is even after – this is a team normally that when they would collapse, it was over. If things started to go south, it was over. We saw it go south. We saw them fall behind. And even though there were some things that came into play, you can call it luck. You can say that shouldn't have. I don't care. I take a line from Terminator 2, right? There's no fate but what we make for ourselves. And you can't get those penalties to happen if you're not putting the ball to give these guys even a chance to do it. Our quarterback makes it possible. He makes things possible now that before it wouldn't be. So right. I feel a little bit better about it. The one other thing that I am kind of still looking at, because this team has played better, that is actually something that can't be denied. They have played better. Our offense is putting up points, which it had not done in years. They are able to do things now, and with a less than ideal attacking, squad, your wide receiver core is very limited. You're still playing with a guy who's still learning to play in the NFL. So I mean, you are somewhat trying to navigate waters without all your weapons, and yet we are playing better than we had before. If you go back to 22, that team started out 6-2. They went to 7-2. They finished the last half of the year. The last 8 games of the season, the Giants were 2-5-1. If anything, if you want to flip the script, that's the way to look at it and say, well, and you need to reverse that kind of trend. But it starts by making things happen. We've beat quality opponents. That's the other part that gives me some encouragement. They didn't beat New Orleans and we're like, oh wait, we beat New Orleans, but we lost to the Chargers and we lost to the Broncos and we lost to the Eagles. They beat the Chargers when the Chargers were still fairly healthy. They got injured during that game, but they were coming in on a roll. They beat the Eagles on a short week after losing a bad game to New Orleans, and Philadelphia coming off a loss that you knew that they're going to want to do something about, and the Giants physically outperformed them. So one of the first times in a while, I think this team can play with anybody. How many weapons they have and how much they can overcome, that's to be determined. But I'm not worried about them stepping on the field with any team right now.
It's a strange situation because they had one wide receiver in Denver catch a pass, and yet they scored 5 touchdowns. So this team is very strange right now, and a lot of it is Dart and Scadaboo and the energy that they have brought to the team. And I agree with you. I actually don't fear going into a particular game with them on the field. I fear for the coaching staff and the management right now.
Fair enough.
They went into a game with the kicker situation again. They're going to do it again this week. They may carry 2 kickers on Sunday. They said that this week that there's possibility that they'll carry 2 kickers. It has this. They still haven't learned their lesson. And I understand what you're saying. If Andrew Phillips, if that had been Tay Banks, we would not have been surprised on that play. But Andrew Phillips, that was a bad play. But again, they played scared at the end of that game.
Sure.
And they did stupid things like chasing the extra point when it went up 19-0. That was stupid, and that came back to haunt them. And it's just and throwing on 3rd and 5. That was dumb. It's just this. They do stupid things, and I feel like the coaching staff sabotages the players at this point, both on offense and defense, more so on defense at this point. And that's what's got me a little down. I'd be way more fired up if we had beaten the Broncos, and I'd be still, okay, we can get by this if I trusted this coaching staff. I don't trust this coaching staff anymore. That's where I'm a little bit like, how are they going to screw this up? Now the thing is this. I saw Rich Eisen was on. He took a call from a Giants fan who was, he was still feeling pretty good. He said, I'm going to be in the minority here. I don't think the Giants are in as bad shape as the rest of the fan base right now because of the quarterback, because they're in all these games with good teams right now. I feel good. And Rich Eisen was like, good for you. I'm on board with you. I understand that. And he started prompting them on a whole conversation about Dable again should not be on the hot seat. And I'm like, did you watch the game? Did you see the Dallas game? I mean, it's again, if it's a one-off or this was just like, a hiccup, I could see it, but this has become a consistent pattern with these guys over the last couple of years. I don't trust them anymore. So, but at the flip side, as I wrote in the preview, Dable picked Dart. Dart's not here probably without Dable. And in a way, they are tied at the hip, as you've pointed out repeatedly. If you're going to get rid of Dable, you got to separate them sooner than later. So I'm in this weird area, John. I could actually see them upset the Eagles again. I could actually see, and this is what Rich Eisen was saying, is the other people in his studio were saying, the Giants are going to win 4 games. And Rich was like saying, I don't know. This is a team that's probably going to still win some games that you don't think they're going to win. And he's probably right about that. So we could get into a situation where we're in the same pattern that we are right now. We beat somebody that we didn't give any chance at, and then we lose against somebody that we thought we should beat. So we'll have to see how this plays. Long story short, we're going to have to see how this plays out. This is a bit of a roller coaster right now. And to me, the rest of the season boils down to this. How does Dart play? How does Scadaboo play? And does the defense show any consistency at all? And lastly, and most importantly, do any of these people save their jobs? That's what it boils down to me right now. So do they win enough games where John Mara has his excuse, for lack of a better word? Some people will say it's not an excuse, he should, but that has the excuse to retain Brian Dable, and then therefore retain Shane Bowen. But I think Shane Bowen is not an NFL defensive coordinator at this point. That's where I'm really down. So
I think well, a couple of things. Let's look at this real quick, because the reason why I brought up 22 is, again, the Giants the last half of the year were not good. I mean, they were. I mean, the tie with Washington was bad. I mean, and they were 2-5-1. One loss, that tie a loss. The Giants aren't even in the playoffs. So a lot kind of fell apart after it started so well. The reverse is potentially true here, and I brought this up a long time ago, is the back half of the schedule changes slightly for the Giants. And as the season goes on, more teams are getting more injuries are happening to more teams. So I just want to look at the schedule to give you a little bit of an idea of what we're looking at just from the NFC. So the Giants have the Eagles this week. That's a huge deal. Assuming, if the Giants are going to do anything, let's say that you have to win that game. But for now, I'm not going to really care who wins or doesn't. I'm just playing out the schedule. So the Giants play the Eagles, and then they have a bye. The Eagles come off their bye. They go Packers, Lions, Cowboys, Bears, Chargers. The Packers, the Packers, Lions, Cowboys games, 3 in a row. Those are going to be tough games overall, because each of those teams is going to want to, like, the Packers want to establish themselves. They need to stay there. The Lions are the Lions. And then you've got the Cowboys, who already lost a game to Philadelphia. So that's got some meaning to them. There's a stretch right there. But look at the bottom of the schedule for the Eagles. Their games are 2 with Washington and 1 with Buffalo. That it's usually where you mix it up a little bit, and then you get this other game in between, and then it's another division. But generally, you don't play the same division opponent within 3 weeks at the back end of the season. They play the Commanders twice in 3 weeks at the very end of the season.
Who came up with the schedules?
That's what I'm wondering too. Well, when we look at Dallas, you're going to see something very similar to what the Giants had. So that's an interesting schedule for the Eagles. I don't think anything's easy for the Eagles. One thing to keep in mind, Minnesota looked really bad against the Chargers Thursday night. That was pretty obvious. They weren't very good. They had 6 trips into the red zone against the Eagles and could not score. 6 times they were in the red zone. That game with the Eagles, where it looks like the Eagles, they beat Minnesota and they're back. I wouldn't put a lot of stock in that game overall. Carson Wentz was really bad. They had a defensive touchdown. I don't think the Eagles are where they're at yet. So for now, I would say their schedule and that last 3 weeks is crazy. I've never seen division games set up that way.
That end of the schedule to me is good for them. Raiders and Commanders twice, and I know the Commanders are really beat up right now, but they don't look as intimidating as we thought they were going to be.
But when you play a division opponent,
the last 4 games are tough.
I look at it differently. First off, when you play a division opponent, all things go out the window. You know each other better than anybody. Plus, those games are going to be up for each other. And you don't really want to be battling your division opponent, the same one, twice in 3 weeks, going into the end. And in between that is the Buffalo Bills. There's a lot going on there. But move on to Dallas. Dallas has the Broncos this week. Then they get the Cardinals, and who knows what's going on there. Then they get their bye. Dallas's offense is legit. Their offense can pretty much score on anybody they want.
Yeah, and Dak's having an awesome year.
Their defense, however, just took another hit. Again, as I mentioned the other day, Trayvon Diggs got a concussion at home. There's been some really weirdness there on what happened. He's now apparently going on IR. So their defense just got weaker. They come off the bye and they get the Raiders. But from there, Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, then they get the Vikings, then they get the Chargers, and then they finish the way the Giants started the season. They go on the road to 2 division opponents. They go to Washington, then they come to New York to finish the season out. So again, weird scheduling by the NFL. Normally you don't put 2 division road games as your last 2 games of the season. They just don't do that. There's that gap in between. Usually the 17th week or game 16 now is an opponent that's not your divisional opponent, and then you finish with the divisional opponent. For the Cowboys, they're going to go on the road for the last 2 weeks
against on the road,
division teams. Then you look at Washington, and Washington right now, they're not good. And they've got injuries right now. They could easily fall off the face of the cliff at the moment here. They've got the Chiefs this week. Then they got Seattle. Then they've got Detroit. Now, the Dolphins are a reprieve. but they come back off a bye and they're going right back at it. They got the Broncos, they got the Vikings. They finished those 2 games playing the Eagles, and in between that, they got sandwiched the Cowboys. The Washington finishes with 3 division games. Again, not something you've seen since they've gone to this schedule. 3 straight division games. The Giants have the bye week at the latest time. It's an interesting little quirk in scheduling as well. Look at the way the teams Washington, Philadelphia, New York played Detroit. It's all in a row. Washington gets Detroit. The following week, Philadelphia gets Detroit, and then the Giants get Detroit. 3 straight weeks, Detroit plays NFC East teams, one right after the other. That's another weird oddity. Not really sure why the NFL chose to do some of the things that they did, but that's what they did. But if you look at the schedule for the Giants, again, I've mentioned this before. If you're going to play the 49ers, you want them at home and you want them at a 1 o'clock game. And that's what they've got. It's a West Coast team coming to the East Coast to play a 1 o'clock game. 49% of the time or less, the West Coast teams cover on the spread on those games. That is a game, and it proved prophetic with the Charger game. The Giants need that game. You beat the Eagles, you got to beat the 49ers at home at 1 o'clock. So, again, scheduling the way it is, I don't look at the Giants' schedule as this daunting thing with all the way teams, who they battle, the injuries that are going on. If you want to do something, the back half of the season now is the way they're going to go. If they don't win 4, they don't win 5, maybe even 6 of these last games, then you really truly have to question whether or not you should bring Daboll back at all, because you're playing off the excitement of a rookie quarterback. You've shown that you can play with anybody. When you get the Vikings later, and who knows what they're going to be like. You get the Raiders, and they very well could be completely gone at that point. They look like they're in disarray. And then you get the Cowboys in the last game of the season, and who knows where either one of you are sitting standing-wise. But outdoors in the East, the Cowboys probably calling it a day, and they're probably not going after anything at that point. You got to win those games. There's a number of games here that I think Daboll has to win, and the schedule is somewhat favorable, but you got to start now.
I wouldn't say that it's favorable. Well, you and I would agree to disagree on that. If you're saying that they're going to win 6 out of their last 10 or 5 out of their last 10, I wish I had my drink that you're drinking right now.
I
hear you, John. I know you.
But here's the thing. See, but the part that I don't think why you got to kind of step aside from the fandom part of it. You already said this team probably should be 5 wins. I'm saying you have to. I'm saying Daboll has to. If you really want to prove you belong back here, you have to win.
I don't think, first of all, if John Mara is so sick that they're going to be like I said last time, if he's so sick that they don't want to put him through a coaching search, they'll bring everybody back regardless. But let's put that out the window. John Mara will look for any excuse to retain everybody. So say the Giants lose their next 6 games, but then they win 3 out of the last 4. I can see John Mara bringing them back just in that scenario. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. If we had the 49ers coaching staff, I think this team could challenge to get to that 6-win mark in the last 10 games. But we don't have the 49ers. We have more on number 1 and more on number 2, and they're gonna fuck up again because that's what they've done before. And I'm sorry to sound like that, but I'm going on with what I've seen. So the Giants may be beating the Eagles on Sunday, and these morons will do something in the 4th quarter to lose the fucking game again. And until they prove otherwise, it's the same thing I said to you before when we went into the Denver game, and I said you predicted a win and I predicted a loss, and a lot of the things you predicted actually came true. You thought they would score a lot of points. But as I said before that game, I said, I don't trust this team. And I didn't think it would be that bad, but I don't know. I'm going to say this. The loss to the Denver is one of the great losses in Giants history. It is a catastrophic, not in terms of like this team is going to the Super Bowl, but just the epic proportion. They did something that was almost impossible to do. And it's like they tried to do it. It was so bad. And I think we've all become so shell-shocked in the last 10 years that some of these things, there's been a lot of posts the last couple of years about when the Giants have had a really bad loss, and people have posted on the site and have said, is anyone else like me? That I just don't feel that bad as I should about this, or I don't care. And I think we've gotten so beaten down that these catastrophic, like I remember the impact the loss to the Vikings in 97 playoff game left on me. I remember the playoff loss to the 49ers, and I was shell shocked with that. The Jackson punt return to the Eagles, the miracle in the Meadowlands too, that kind of crap. And we were all like this. Now the Denver loss, I think, is so. I think we've been sort of beaten down that it just kind of rolls off our shoulders a little bit. It was a catastrophic loss. The one thing I will say good about this team too, and I don't know again if this is on Dart and Scadavoo, is the Giants have had some gut punches before the Denver loss and have rebounded pretty darn well. They rebounded very well after the Chiefs game, and they rebounded very well after the Saints game. And both of those were tough to rebound from, especially given the fact that the Eagles game was on a Thursday, which you've already brought up. So they have an ability that so far, we'll have to see on Sunday, they have ability so far to sort of put these things out of their mind. So we'll see if that works again. But if it's the coaching, John, it's what worries me right now. I mean, they're going into this game again with the same kicker situation. Gano, they're probably going to have two kickers on Sunday. And
let me ask you
what
this:
if we lose the game again with the kicker?
But
if that happens, they're gone.
But what would you have done this week at kicker then?
What they should have done is brought in a serious veteran kicker and just given him the job, and not do this Jude international player crap.
No, I know that, but I mean this week. Your option.
I would have held tryouts with veteran kickers and just brought in, if it wasn't going to be the Korean kicker that they have right now, if they didn't have confidence in him, I would have brought in a veteran kicker who's out there on the street and just brought him in. Like, again, the Packers just brought somebody in who's 7 for 7 on field goals. Yeah. So you just need somebody to John, you need somebody. My son said to me this week, he said, "Dad, our high school kicker doesn't miss extra points." When he was in high school, he's in the Army now, but they can't hit. You got to hit extra points, John. I know I'm a professional.
Oh, absolutely. No,
it's a kicker that can hit an extra point. If we have a kicker who extra points, we're 3-4 right now. So, and I just feel like when I heard this, Gano's questionable, and they may bring in two kickers in this game, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do it. They're going to do it again. So we'll see. And then the other thing that isn't still in the back of my mind, because it came up, is the Giants in the last few years have done some weird things by seeming to be very cheap with the roster on game day. This year, it was last year, maybe the year before, but I'd have to look back on it. But I almost get the sense that they've gotten like stupid pricey at some points, then stupid cheap at some point. You brought it up. Let's stick with the kickers. Gano is one of the highest paid kickers in the NFL.
Sure.
But then they go the other extreme, and they get their practice squad player, who actually does not count against the salary cap when he's on the practice squad. It's 0, which is weird when I always have to enter that in the salary page. But when he's on the practice squad, he doesn't cost anything. But they bring him in to be the game day. And we learned this a couple weeks ago that Joe Schoen has more input on who is on the roster than most teams in the NFL and most general managers in the NFL. So you and I reacted to that immediately. Is that why Neal is on the roster? Is that why Jalen Hyatt's still on the roster? I wonder if did Shane put a gun to Dable's head and say, you're going to pick one of the kickers that's on the practice squad this week. It's going to be, Jude or the other guy, and that's it. So I wonder. Part of me wonders is, and I don't know. We'll never know the answer to this. Did that last week's loss occur because the general manager kind of forced the kicker on them? I don't know the answer, but we know Shane now has direct impact on who's going to be on the game day roster. So that's in the back of my mind now too. So anyway,
the thing with the kicker, the one thing I will say, you should have made the decision about him 2 weeks prior. the second he started playing multiple games, there really was no like, oh, we'll just switch him out for a different kicker that week. I think the biggest problem with the Giants when it comes to what you were talking about on the financial side of things, and it's the thing that seems to be no matter how much they can do, they haven't done it yet, is the fact that they seem to always be at the absolute bottom of salary cap space. So it's one of the things I just put in chat a minute ago. There's a reason why Ganell's probably going to be the kicker this week. And if they do anything, they will bring a practice squad guy up only for the game and then put him back down. He's already being paid. It already counts on the salary cap. His money is already there. So they don't need to add more money by getting another kicker. And I think that's partly what they're trying to juggle here. And it's cost them.
Right.
That being said, I never would have brought him back. And it's not because I think I could just find a better kicker. I don't think a kicker's worth when you are trying to figure out where you're at coming off a 3-win season. I don't need a $4, $5, $6, $7 million kicker. Why? What games are we winning? He's going to kick us to what? 4 wins? So I think that was the biggest mistake. Right now, I don't really see what their options are other than going with 2 kickers this week. You're going to give Gano a shot. You want him to be healthy. They're going to go as far as they can go. And again, they're looking at the record too, kind of like you are, I think, and they're probably juggling both. We want to win games, but we're not going to rely just on a kicker. Whatever, you made your bed, now you got to lie in it, kind of deal.
I'm sorry, I had to laugh at this.
Jesus. The other part about the input, I'm curious. I know the rumors out there, and I know where we heard it from, and I'm not going to say where people who has mentioned it. But one of the things that kind of bugs me, though, if it's true, right? Let's say it's true. If Shane's the reason why Hyatt was on the team and is why Neil's on the team, then why isn't Neil being activated? You would think Shane would want him activated, or carrying him and not playing actually brings more of an eye on the fact you would have been better off having him be cut. Instead of being there and never being on the active roster, that just magnifies the mistake.
Well, I think there is a line in terms of whether the player on the game day roster actually, when he plays and how when they get him in the game. So maybe kind of Dable thumbing his nose at Shane a little bit, saying, all right, he's going to be on the roster, but he's going to be inactive the whole. I mean, he hasn't been active all year, right?
He has not been active in any game this year.
Any game. So the 7th overall pick in the 2022 draft has not been active at all this year. That's another positive that we're not talking about. That I did point out in the game preview. The offensive line is actually playing pretty well right now. Not superb, but they're playing good enough to win. They're playing winning football.
Yes.
And the tight ends are coming along. And then the coach that's coaching the tight ends, who was the offensive coordinator at one point in Tennessee. Geez, I can't think of his name right now. But he's doing a real nice job with the tight ends. So Bellinger's having a bit of a career renaissance right now. And Theo Johnson's playing his best football right now, and it's not just the catching; it's the blocking. So I kudos to those guys that are playing on offense. So you have that with Dart, and that's going to have to continue. It's staggering that they can't get any productivity out of the wide receivers other than Wan'Dale. Slayton's back this week, and I know people are really down on him because of the drops, and he does disappear from time to time, but again, he should be able to catch some passes. Bo Collins and Jalen have been invisible. The other thing, and really minor, John, I wouldn't even I know he doesn't cost anything. Why did they even re-sign Jude to the practice squad? I don't even know. I mean, I don't think we'll ever see him again. So why is he even on the team?
I was wondering. It's funny. I was going to ask you something similar about that too. I mean, do they just feel like is there some benefit for this international program thing? Like,
I don't know. That I don't know. I mean,
because it's
not costing them against the salary cap, and it's a free spot on the. So, but again, if you're a Giants fan and he's activated again for any game, everybody's going to be like,
I don't think you can. He can never. You can't.
Right. So why is he even? I mean, I feel for the guy, but again, he's a kicker who wasn't even the kicker for their college football team. Right. So I explained that to my wife, and she's like, "What are they doing?" And I said, "They're stupid." Like I said, they do stupid things. But All right, let's talk Eagles.
Yeah,
So,
let's move forward for this week. Let's start with the injury side of things first, so we can talk about who's there. We saw already Paulson Adebo's I believe
out.
he's out. Holland is doubtful, which means out.
He's out.
Um,
Burns is
and
questionable. This reporters seem to think he's going to play.
Burns said he was going to play.
That
So
boot injury mysteriously has turned into a hip injury.
yeah,
So that's
that's
weird in itself.
someone
And
told me
he had a
sometimes when you
backtrack. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say. Someone told me sometimes when you hurt your hip, you feel it in your foot. I'm like, did you see when he got hurt? He went down and grabbed his foot immediately. At no point in time did he grab his hip. It was a foot injury, and I think they're trying to cover it up a little bit and calling it something else to kind of keep the focus off from it. But you don't put somebody in a walking boot with a hip.
Yeah, he's a warrior. That guy is playing, and he did it last year too. He played hurt last year. He does not come out. He's the kind of. By the way, my wife did not know about the smart, tough, and dependable thing at all, and she was asking me about something about why did they. She asked me about something stupid the Giants did, and I said because they're smart, tough, and dependable. She goes, "What is that?" I said, "That's their motto." She goes, "That stands for STD." The same thing that you.
It's like,
But her immediate my mind never went there before. So you and her, it was like STD.
oh, it's so obvious. I mean, when you put it, you're like, are you serious? Like that's that's what you could come up with. Why don't you come up with an acronym for gonorrhea? Let's just do that. Let's just make it huge, like great, honest, open. I mean, just keep going, like you're all set.
But he's key to whether he plays or not. Look, you and I have been Giants fans long enough that we've gone into games where the Giants are not favored and they've had injuries on defense, and we've had defensive coordinators that have pulled out their playbook and have come up with a scheme that caused enough issues that the Giants pulled off the upset still. So,
right.
Paulson's out, Holland's out, and you're like, oh crap, the Giants are screwed in this. Tay Banks is going to have to play a lot. And you're basically down to two safeties. They're screwed. If they had a defensive coordinator I trust, I would still say maybe they can come up with something, but not moron number two. Moron number two is not going to be able to do that. So that's what scares me on that side of the ball is, and the other thing is the Saquon factor. They kind of embarrassed him the last time. They held him to under 60 yards. And if you take out the two runs that he made at the very beginning of the game and the run at the end of the first half, he did nothing. He did nothing against the Giants. It may have been one of his worst games in an Eagles uniform. I'd have to go back and look at what his game. But if you took out those three runs, which ended up being pretty meaningless.
Well, let me help you there. Against the Vikings, he had 18 carries for 44 yards. He averaged 2.4 yards per carry.
That was worse. Okay.
Against Denver the week before, he averaged 5 yards a carry, but he only carried the ball 6 times for 30 yards.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. They're not running him a lot in some of these games, too. They didn't run him a lot against the Giants.
Their O-line has been a little suspect with injuries, and they are going to be missing their center again for this game. So, yeah, he started off 18 for 60 against Dallas, 22 for 88. Again, that's a lot of carries for 88 yards. 18 for 46 against the Rams, 19 for 43. I mean, he has not had over 88 yards this season.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
He has not had over 58 yards since he went in game 2.
Giants, right? He had
58 against the Giants, and that was a pretty quiet 58.
Yeah, it didn't look like it was. Those first two carries, it was like 18 and 13 yards, something like that. And it was like, oh my God. And then after that, it was nothing other than that meaningless run at the end of the first half. So anyways, hopefully that will continue. AJ Brown's not playing, which helps us. So maybe you can say Debo and AJ Brown are a wash. But unfortunately, Tay Banks is going to be out there. And I've come around to where you are with Tay Banks. It's like anytime he's on the field now, something bad happens.
Yeah.
I'm even wondering, I mean, a lot of people have said, which I kind of like, not mocked you, but I was like saying, if you got rid of Tay Banks,
it was pretty
close.
What
do you do? Put Art Green out there? And people I've seen posts on the site this week saying, oh my God, get Art Green out there. When none of us really know what Art Green is as a player.
Sure.
If you say you do, you're kind of lying. We saw him in the preseason a little bit, but we don't know what Art Green's like. But some people are so down on Tay Banks They're like, and again, it's funny because you hear the same things. Well, he had a really good week of practice, you know. So here we are.
I heard that, and I started hearing like echoes of Ben McAdoo, echoes of Pat Shermer, echoes of Joe Judge. We had a great week of practice. Well, you practice against yourselves, you dumbass. So that's partly not exactly something to be cheerful about. Second thing is, I don't believe anything you say about that. Your practices are borderline walkthroughs all week long anyway.
Yeah.
What did he do that made you feel good? He showed up. When they interviewed him in a locker room, and again, interviews don't mean a whole lot. I get that. It's whatever. Have you ever gotten a feeling from anybody else when they talk to a player who is less invested in what just happened and what? First off, I don't want to make fun of somebody who I think might not be the smartest person on the planet anyway. He talks like he's stupid. And then he talks like he has no heart or care what just happened. He's like, we're going to go on from here. You know, we're going to regroup. What are you talking about? Regroup. You are literally subtraction by addition. The second you hit the field, we're playing with 10 guys. I cannot stand this guy. I've said it from day one. Carl Banks posted a thing, and I commented back to Carl Banks because Banks said, you know, I still have belief in his talent, and I still think he can. He's just
he's a very talented athlete. He's a really talented athlete.
Means absolutely nothing to me. I commented back to Carl Banks, and I said, Carl, you've been in the league for forever. You played in this league at a level that most people haven't played at. You know, and I know you cannot teach heart. There is nothing you can teach this guy that's going to make him suddenly act like he cares. And that's the big problem. He plays very nonchalantly. He plays very like, I'm out here, I'm running around. Sometimes he's there, and if he makes a play, it's okay. But half the time he's just close enough to not look like he's completely out of position, but never close enough to actually do anything positively on the
it's hard for me to determine if someone's playing with heart or not, unless it's a tackling issue. But he certainly is not a very smart player because he keeps getting caught inside, like on the touchdown run. It's like, you did it again. You know,
yes. I mean, so I have a theory on that. I
don't think. I mean, he's not physical, and he does dumb things. So, what's your theory?
You're kind of nailing it right there. I think he does it intentionally. If you play outside, right, and the blocker's coming on you, and the runner's coming that way, I've got to forcibly maintain the outside. That's your job, is to forcibly maintain the outside to channel him back inside where everybody else is coming from. But that's a very physical thing. But if I try to olay you, I could just kind of jump around. I don't have to get physical with you. I think he avoids contact. I think he intentionally avoided the contact there and opened up the outside, and he is the reason that continued down the sidelines. It was horrible.
Remember your idea a while ago to get the defensive backs together on inside BBI from the old Giants team? You wanted to get Terry Williams and Mark Collins, who both have been on our show. And I think you said you had contacts with Guyton, and
who is he's very anti-Giants and anti-interviews.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to have a group of those guys on and show the Tay Banks plays and have them react. Like, love to hear what Perry Williams, show the highlights of Tay Banks to Perry Williams and ask for Perry Williams to comment on that. Because Perry Williams, whether people don't realize, and I fell prey to this too, because he wasn't a flashy player, but he played a long time for the Giants, 10 years, and he was reliable. And the strength of his game was he was physical, and he did what he was supposed to do. They trusted him, and he would not do what Tay Banks has been doing. He would never have he was known for coming up and forcing the run. So anyway.
And people forget that he was a track guy. He was a track guy before, so physicality is something he had to bring to his game to play. What he lacked in ball skills per se, and he didn't have a ton of interceptions and stuff. He was very physical. Go back and look at some of those highlights. When he would come up and hit somebody, he's putting the hit on. He's playing that. And the Giants defense back then, again, I don't want to be the old guy, get off my lawn kind of deal, but it was just a much different animal back then, the way that they played. But that play that you highlighted, the thing I just talked about, it's not the first time, it's not the second time that Tay Banks has done that. He's done it repeatedly. Yes. And the fact of the matter is, your job is outside. Your job is to the sidelines. Don't let anything there. Everybody else is coming in that direction. So you need to maintain out there. What he did opened the door just wide open. I mean, it was literally like he couldn't have been doing it. He would have been a great matador. It was like, oh, ole, here you go.
I can't imagine what the film room is like when they're sitting, the defensive backs are sitting in the meeting room and they're watching that and they're like, I would have been audibly groaning like, what are you doing? So Tay-Banks would not have been able to play for Parcells and Belichick.
Oh God, no.
They never would have. They would have benched him at the.
Maybe Belichick today.
Yeah. Well, he would have been.
He likes the younger ones.
Yeah. So look on defense. The finalize on defense. I think they'd be okay with Belton. Belton has a knack for being around the ball on turnover.
Yes.
He can be exposed more than Holland, I think, in coverage, because you do see, again, there's a bit up and down roller coaster this game. But I wish Tyler Nubin would make any play in his second year now. We're still waiting for him to do anything. I wish, so that's a thing. And then the Andrew Phillips thing is, it's like feast or famine with him. It's like he's really good, and he's got to calm that down, or the Giants are going to have to try to find another nickel back, because this up and down stuff. But again, in the back of my mind, John, is how much is this to a little bit on the coaching staff in terms of not putting the players in the right position to succeed. So that's still lurking in the back of my mind. But on the defensive side of the ball, look, it's going to hurt missing those two guys. And we'll have to see how hurt Brian Burns is. I'd almost be tempted to sit him another week and get him healthy for the final 9 games. I certainly wouldn't want him to aggravate something and be out for like a month at this point. And but the guy's a warrior, and he'll play. And other than that, I think it's again try to shut down Barkley and make Jalen Hurts beat you. That's where I'm on that side of the ball.
Yeah, one of the problems that I have on defense, you just mentioned it, is the fact that the Giants would go 3 safeties at times when it becomes a little more obvious passing, especially to deal with the tight ends, which we're not good at. Right. And now you're really stuck with Nubin, Belton, and we're probably, if we are playing another safety, it's a guy we're not using that often, or we're keeping a linebacker in, and our linebackers are not great in coverage. So that is a bit of a problem. So the pass rush has to win more, which is why I think Burns has to play. This game is more important to the Giants than even the week before is, because again, it's in division, it's with Philadelphia. You've got your first division win in forever, beating the Eagles recently. Anybody other than Washington, you beat the Eagles. Coming back and beating them again 2 weeks out of 3
would be huge.
Would be an absolute statement kind of thing that they could do, and it would be a Dart statement thing to do. But defensively, I think you got to. So you got to see the pass rush there win a little bit more. Dexter Lawrence has to step up. Dexter Lawrence has to be the guy right now, because he's just been he has a couple plays here and there, but then, and I don't know if it's all in him. They never explained why you didn't have him in at the very end. I don't care that he is a big nose tackle. He's also your big pass rusher from the inside.
Yeah.
I want him on the field. He's one of the highest paid players on the team. When the game's on the line, I want him on the field. He's got to play more this week. But a guy to watch for, he's kind of been eking up there a little bit, is Darius Alexander. Mm-hmm. I think he's borderline ready for a game where he's going to stand out. Now, the Eagles are on a backup center, so Lawrence has to kind of get dominant there. But I want to see Darius Alexander get some more playing time.
Yeah, it's encouraging after the slow start in the spring and the summer with Darius Alexander that he's coming on like he is. And again, I think he'll only be scratching the surface this year, but it looks like he was a solid pick for, again, where they got him in the 3rd round. So that's a positive. Now on the other side of the ball with what are you looking at there?
So on the offensive side of the ball, it's a little interesting. One, let's talk about real quick. The Giants signed Ray McLeod. Do we expect that McLeod's going to play? I think it's such a short
Dan
week.
Duggan, who has got a good feel for this, says no.
I was going to say it's a short week. What's he going to bring that you don't technically already have? Because he doesn't know.
Well, he's got numbers as a receiver in the league. So,
but he has not been on the team. But he has had absolutely no time with Jaxson Dart.
No, that's correct. No,
he hasn't been in the offense.
Playbook. He doesn't know.
So for this short week, what I mean is, what does he bring to the team that you can't kind of get around? Darius Slayton needs to play. Now, his hamstring thing, we don't know for sure that he's 100%. He may play, but he might not be 100%. But I'll say this. I'm not a big Slayton fan. I've never been a big Slayton fan. But he is head and shoulders above the couple of the guys that were sliding in to play in place of him.
Yeah.
And the Eagles will be a little more wary of him. He helps take some of the pressure off. I want to see the Giants kind of. Last time I said I wanted them to slow it down, get big, keep the same guys, but get in the huddle, come up, be changing guys out, but running a lot of similar plays, but just change the formations. I want them to go up tempo a little bit. Jalen Carter brings a different thing to the defense for the Eagles than what the Giants faced last time. So the Giants need to change it up. Don't come back in and try to go big on these guys, because if you go big with Carter, you're actually inviting the strength of what they have now with him and Davis and whatever inside. You need to go up tempo. Let's tire them out. They have been on the field a lot. The Eagles in the second half of a lot of games, their offense hasn't been good. Their defense has been on the field a lot. They have a lot of injuries in their secondary. They're going to be missing guys again. So if it's me, I go up tempo a little bit more. I call a lot of plays at the line of scrimmage. I go spread out, but one of the spread out will be a tight end. I don't want to go 3 or 4 wide. Please don't go 4 wide. You just invite the pass rush when you do that. But get some of those guys. But I go up tempo, and I want to see Scatterboo, Tracy, and even Singletary kind of share a little bit, because you're going to kill Scatterboo if you try to run him 30 times with the size of the Eagles defense. In the second half, sure. But you got to spread that around early on. Get guys, get fresh legs constantly, and keep them on their heels.
Scatterboo does not take hits; he delivers them. I'm not as worried about him as others. I like, and Cy said it more eloquently than I've been saying the last couple of months with Scatterboo. I want to see Scatterboo more as a receiver in space against defensive backs who aren't going to want to touch him. So that happened a little bit last week, but I would use Scatterboo more in the passing game, not just on screens, but he is one of those guys that he's just a bitch to tackle. And especially if you're a back 7 player, I would like to see them get the ball in his hands in space more. And I really like the 1-2 punch of Scatterboo and Tracy. So I like that idea. And the up tempo, down tempo thing, I probably should think more about that than like you do. And I could see doing that, but I think they're going to have to do what they've been doing. They're going to have to use a lot of passes to the tight ends, passes to the backs, throw in a little Wandale here. We'll have to see what they get out of Slayton. I can't believe they scored 5 touchdowns against Denver. I again, with one wide receiver catching passes, I still can't wrap my head around that. I said to you before that game, there's no way the Giants are going to score more than 24 or whatever I said, 20, whatever points I said. And they should have scored 35. They ended up scoring 32. And I'm just curious to see if they can keep this up. I doubt they can, but if Dart can keep putting points on the board with the cast of misfits they have at wide receiver, then they really do have a quarterback moving forward. And that's the best news coming out of all of this, is we're all excited. I just pray the guy stays healthy, and I pray Scatterboo stay healthy, because they're the ones that make this team fun to watch right now. And Dart is really a really cool story. But I think if he wasn't even on the team, Scatterboo would be the guy we're all talking. And the fact that they've got 2 of these guys, somebody made a great post this week. Both are kind of like you would almost consider as rookie of the year contenders on offense. And that's kind of astounding that they've got, 2 guys like this on. And I just wish they had a better record, because it would make this even better at this point.
So again, jumping back real quick, I broke the season down into blocks of 6. We talked about this on a previous episode. The first 6, the Giants go 2-4. We've already, and I said for this second block of 6, I said this before, even before the Bronco game. I said, ultimately, it doesn't matter what 2 games the Giants lose. They have to win 4. Well, you already lost 1, and now it does matter. You really do need to beat the Eagles. If you want to even be relevant, you need to beat the Eagles. And if they do beat the Eagles, I kind of have a feeling the stink and the feeling of the last week will go away very quickly. It's a division game. It's important. That game, a lot of weird shit happened to lose that game. It's, yes, more on one and more on two, for sure. But if you think about it, right, even it's hard to blame them in game when you already had a kicker and he already made the extra point, and you go and put him out there. You're thinking, okay, we're just going to get this extra point. Now we got to just don't let him tie the game. And again, how you handle that from there is how you handle it from there. The second the ball was snapped and you watched the kick, you could see it. Just the way he moved, you're like, oh God, he's going to miss this. That's just one of those things that just shouldn't happen. There's a lot of stuff in that game where you're like, how did Denver get so the pass that Nix throws? I am 100% convinced now after watching it 4 times, he was throwing the ball to Sutton. He missed Sutton. It went over his head and Mims is just right there in the middle of the field. So many things, you lose that game, but yet the fact of the matter is you scored 30 plus on one of the most quality. Yeah, try that again, John. Here you go. Quality defenses in the NFL. You put up 30 plus, and like you said, one wide receiver, a diminutive little smurf of a guy, is the only one getting catches. Fast forward to this week. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think Jalen Hyatt's going to have a catch, and I think it's going to be plus 40 yards. The Giants have been sneaking him down the field, and Dart's been thrown to him. He just missed them. And I looked at it over and over again. I'm not, too many people are willing to go, look, see, he didn't run all the way. I see where you might see that as he's in the middle, but I don't know. I don't know that to be true. I'm not timing him. I don't know if he's still running full speed. The one thing I do notice, though, is that he doesn't have that extra gear at the very end when the ball's there. He doesn't have that like sprint all of a sudden to catch it. His speed is his speed, but he was open. That's 2 times now. He was open against New Orleans. He was open against Philadelphia. I think they're going to sneak him down one of these times again. I think it's going to be in this game. Yes, Optimus, he absolutely sucks. But Byron Williams was not exactly a guy that you would look to go, this guy's going to catch the ball. And every now and then the Giants got him deep. Stacey Robinson wasn't a guy that was always going to catch the ball, but the Giants would get him deep. Hell, Floyd Eddings wasn't a guy that was going to catch the ball all the time, and the Giants got him deep one time. That's a way back.
Are you predicting an interception for Tay Banks too?
Tay Banks, the only thing I want intercepted is him on the way to get on the field. So, no. But the one thing I do want to watch, and I watched I watched it 4 times now. I was extremely disappointed in Kayvon Thibodeau.
Who's had a good year? Who's up until that point?
He has, but I wonder if some of it is because what we've expected and what he's given is a little different. So we're like, it's a good year. If you go back and look, he has 2.5 sacks, and the sacks are not the end all be all. So don't look at that. But his tackles and assisted tackles are very low.
Yeah, Brian, but he's been way better, and we've talked about this at the
maintaining and holding the edge. Yep.
Yeah. I think most people who have been relatively pleased with him, but he did not have a good game against Denver.
But that was an idiotic, and he did it twice. He comes in, when you come in off the edge like that, when there's a run pass option,
right,
so to speak, or potential handoff, keep the ball kind of deal. Your job when you come through is to take the quarterback. You are to make sure whatever's going to happen, the handoff needs to be forward. He dives in at the back, leaving the whole outside. You're on the goal. There's no reason. Again, it's just as dumb as what Banks did. But he did it twice. He has not made the plays when he should. He's not a game changer. And it's disappointing because if Burns is limited, Thibodeau's got to play more. So the guy that I think this has to fall on right now is Abdul Carter. His pressures are off the charts for a rookie right now, and that's great. They've resulted in 0 sacks. Right. I want a game-changing play from the guy that he was drafted to be that way. This is your chance. He needs to be that guy and step up because I do think Burns is going to be limited. By the way, real quick, if you look at stats, Brian Burns is tied for the league in sacks with 9. Benito is right below. I think he's at 8.5. But look at Benito for the Broncos, who was all mouth and talking all week long last week. Look at his tackles and his assisted tackles. They are way less than Brian Burns. Brian Burns is playing physical. He's playing the run. He's playing the pass. This dude is on a defensive MVP kind of level if he can maintain it for the year. So I think this is the week, though, with him a little limited, that Abdul Carter has to step up.
Isn't it frustrating that we've got these good players on the team and yet the record doesn't reflect it? It's so deflating. And I think the players pick up on that too. So look, it's interesting with Thibodeau. Again, it sounds like I'm defending him, but it's funny. It shows you how we react as fans on this show and in the forum on Big Blue Interactive. The alternating threads and discussions about we need to resign Kayvon now, or maybe we should shop him now for a 3rd round pick, which was a thread this week. So it just shows you, we've talked about it too.
Sure.
You brought it up, said, would you resign Kayvon now? So it just shows, we got to remember to step back and look at the big picture. And a lot of this, I'm going to sound like a broken record. You almost have to let the season play out and see where these guys are. How did Kayvon perform overall in this year? And then we have him under contract 1 more year, so we'll see. But I do like having the 3 of them. But I think ultimately he's not going to be on this team because of Abdul Carter. Because I think you're going to want Abdul Carter coming off the edge. Abdul Carter's kind of been jinxed. I don't worry about him because when I see him, I see how close he is, and I see the talent. It's like, and Cy brought this up, Nix was getting rid of the ball quicker than he ever did in his entire career on Sunday. And Abdul Carter was still getting there, but it was just he didn't hold on to the ball. So I just don't. He's not a guy that I was getting a little bit nervous about Darius Alexander. Now I'm not. I've never been nervous about Abdul Carter. It's just weird that he hasn't been. It'll come for him, but I don't worry about that. And part of it is related to what you just said. He's not been lining up outside as a starting outside linebacker and playing the bulk of the game. So his best game he had 35 defensive snaps, which is a ridiculously low number.
Low number, yeah.
But against the Chargers, he had eight pressures and 5 quarterback hits in that game. Imagine if he was getting a normal 60, 65 defensive snaps. His numbers would be. He'd have the numbers. I don't worry about him. They're going to have to deal with the big thing. Is my final comments on the Eagles game is this: Jalen Carter's playing, Mitchell's playing. They both missed the last game. Those are their best defensive player and one of their best defensive players are going to be back, and they were embarrassed by Dart last time. So I expect them to come out pretty fired up this time. And if the Giants go in there and upset the Eagles again, which I don't think they're going to do, but if they do that, like you said, the Denver game sting will get in the rearview mirror pretty quickly. But I'm curious to see this game because I'm curious to see if they can rebound and pull off another upset. I think it's possible. I'm not going to go. There's no way they're going to not do this, but I'm not optimistic about it. But if they do it, I'll be really impressed with this because given coming off the Denver loss, given the defensive player injuries that we have, and given it's in Philadelphia, I just think it would be a super impressive win for the franchise. The sweep the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions, would be a huge statement.
Oh, absolutely. And I think the game's going to be a lot closer than a lot of the negative people think. I'm not going to pick them to win per se, but I want to.
I know you do.
Because I'm telling you, I'm not impressed with Philadelphia. I've watched them in other games. They are lucky to be where they are with the record. And again, you are what you are. They're 5-2. They beat the Rams in a game that if the Rams just don't have a total F up on the field goal, the game's over. They win. Right. They squeaked by Tampa Bay where they basically did nothing the entire second half. That game became very, very, very close because of it. They're not, and in Minnesota, they did not dominate that game in Minnesota. And you had Carson Wentz throwing a pick six. They couldn't do anything. They got in there, but they moved up and down the field on Philadelphia. The one thing about getting your defensive back in a game where the other team doesn't have any star receivers doesn't mean a whole lot to me.
But like, Carter matters. Getting Carter back matters.
Carter coming back. But don't forget, one thing I think is important, and I actually think it's more important than people think. we get John Michael Schmitz back. And I actually think he was playing pretty damn well in that Eagle game before he got injured. And he's a little bit more physical. He's stronger than I think Schlotman is. I think Schlotman did totally fine. You could get by with him as your starting center, no problem. But I think Schmitz gives you just that little bit, and he should be rested. Now, I don't know, where he's at with the concussion and a broken nose, but he's cleared to play. So, getting him back, I think, is a big deal. And I think it actually helps more in the pass blocking than it does in the run blocking, just from a physical standpoint of pass blocking. But we'll see. I mean, I'm so tempted to go with the Giants. I'll say this. I think if they get out early, if they get on top early, it's going to get ugly for Philadelphia fairly early. The Giants need to limit Devonta Smith. I'm willing to go one-on-one with Dotson. You got to kind of minimize Goddard's damage that he'll do to you. And, of course, then you're dealing with Barkley in general. But I don't want Smith getting deep like he got open in the game where they missed him. That guy can take the top off against his team. If you shut him down, Hurts' passing game becomes unbelievably limited. And Hurts has not been very good. He's taking sacks when he doesn't need to. He's not very accurate. And by the way, he has not played smart at all. That whole 2-minute thing, or it was less than 2 minutes, the drive at the end of the first half against the Giants was really stupid.
He was a big reason why the Giants won the first game, was the play of Hurts. He didn't play well. So he's got a lot to – again, a lot of Eagles got embarrassed in that game. It'll be interesting if that was a one-off or if that continues in this game. So it's going to be an interesting game to watch. I right now, I don't think any lead. I wish I could agree with you that if the Giants get up early, it'll be bad. But we got up early against Denver twice. So I'm not going. I hate the fact as a Giants fan, I can never get comfortable with any lead. So it's like watching an NBA game with the Giants. It's like you think you're okay when you're up 26-8 in the fourth quarter, but you can't relax.
True.
So.
But again, we led the bulk of the way with the Chargers. We led pretty much the entire way with the Eagles, and we shut them down completely. It's not that they can't do it. It's just the times when they haven't, it's been very just noticeable about like you fell apart. The Dallas game was a little bit different because it was going back and forth for quite a while in the second half, but you chose to do something stupid, which gave them, and then you did it again. That's the part that bugs me. But anyway.
Yeah. So you're not picking them. You want to pick them, but you're not picking them.
I'll let you go first. I'm so on the edge.
I don't think it'll be a blowout. I hope I'm right about that. We blow them out. That's what I'd want. But I don't think it'll be a blowout. But I do think the Eagles got embarrassed, and I just can't. I believe in Dart. I just can't see them scoring a lot again. If he does it again, then I'm going to be really on the Dart train. But I just it's tough for me to see them going. Your offense is based around Theo Johnson, Daniel Bellinger, in passes to the running backs out of the backfield. It's hard for me to say that they can keep that up. But if they do, then wow. But I'm going to say it's going to be close. But the Giants will probably lose this game. But I would not be surprised if that win. I would not be surprised if.
Look at you hedging your bet. I'm gonna go with. I think unfortunately I think they'll probably come up short in Philadelphia, but I do think they're going to score at least 25 points in this game.
Whoa. Okay.
I think they're going to continue. I think Dart just brings something. They've got something going there. I will say if they start out early, if they get 10, 14 points by the middle of the second quarter, I think this team's going to roll in the second half, and I think Philadelphia is going to melt. Philadelphia's melted in the second half of many of their games. There's something going on in that locker room. It's pretty obvious. There is issues within that team. And I don't think the receivers and the quarterback are on the same page about it. I don't think the coaching staff and some of the players are on the same thing. They changed. Keep in mind, at some point, you can only change coordinators so many times. Like, those guys go and get other jobs before it starts to affect you, because the guy that's running the ship, Nick Sirianni, God love him. He won a Super Bowl. His teams win. I think he is the equivalent of when the Cowboys moved on from Jimmy Johnson. I think when you bring in, you bring in this guy, he's all like, whatever. But when you take the coordinators away, You take the coordinators away, and all of a sudden he's the guy, he's the focal point. And I'm not seeing it with his team. I think the Giants, if they could come out, they've got swagger, they've got attitude, and that's a one kind of thing that we've never really had since Jeremy Shockey was on the team. We haven't had somebody, and it didn't permeate everybody else. Shockey was more self-contained attitude. These guys, it permeates the rest of the team.
I don't know if I've ever seen as a Giants fan a guy come in and change. In this case, it's two, change the culture so quickly other than Lawrence Taylor. I'm not talking about talent. I'm just talking about just the attitude he brought to the team.
Sure.
So to have two rookies come in here and change, it's almost like that preview that I wrote at the beginning of the season where the Superman analogy that he had to save. They had to save. Or I was talking specifically about Dart, but
saving Daboll.
Too.
Yeah.
But they if they do survive, it's going to be because of these two young men, and that's something. I mean, these guys came into a veteran locker room and basically took over the culture of this team, and they made this. Let me put it this way: if Scadaboo and Dart are not on this team, we're all tuning out right now.
Oh.
No one's even watching the Giants. We're all like, I'll tune in January and see who the new coach and general manager are. But because it's not just, and people will say, well, that hasn't been true in the past, Eric. It was true to a certain extent last year that stadiums were getting empty.
Sure.
And it would be that on steroids this year if it wasn't for Dart and Scadaboo at this point. If Russell Wilson was still in the game, still the quarterback, and we were scoring 9 points a game, people would be checked out right now. I mean, BBI would be a ghost town, and the stadium would be half empty, and none of us. But they make it interesting, even with the Giants being 2-5, and they really should have 2 more wins than they do now, and arguably 3. But it is what it is, so we'll have to go on from there. But
absolutely.
Again, somebody said, way to be decisive, Eric. It's hard to be decisive with this team because they're so, they beat the Chargers and they beat the Eagles, but then they lose to the Saints. They're up 28-6 and they blow the game, or 26-8 and they blow the game. It's hard to.
It is
hard to be like decisive with these.
But
guys.
it is somewhat Giant-like. The difference is we have too many of those. I was thinking about the Broncos game and trying to equate it. I love to jump back to the 80s. And it reminded me of 85. The home loss to the Cowboys. Shouldn't have lost that game. That was ridiculous.
Both of them.
The Browns game. Yeah, both 85 games. There was just different times. The 86 game against Seattle, still can't understand how we lost to the Seahawks in that game.
We only had Solomon Miller
with one of the greatest catches I've ever seen. And it's just it's weird. But again, look at the NFC East right now. If the Giants beat the Eagles, they will have swept Philadelphia. They still have 2 other games left in the division with Dallas and Washington down the road. The rest of the division will be, minus Philadelphia, could be, by the end of the day, 3-win teams as well. I mean, really, the Giants are just...
that Dallas loss look terrible, though, doesn't it, too, for us?
But you know what? What's funny? Green Bay's in that same boat. They didn't lose. They got a tie. But it was the same damn thing. Yeah, they had Dallas down the whole... I mean, the score was pretty much the same all the way through. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how are they having the exact same thing against another team? And I mean, it was like mirror images, goes to overtime and ends up in a tie. So these things happen if everybody else comes back to the field. And that's what I had said, to keep an eye on some of these guys. Washington has a lot of other issues. What they did last year was kind of head and shoulders above what was expected. This year it's coming back to the field, and then you add in injuries. So there is room for them if the Giants are going to do. But this game of six games in a row here, they have to do something. This is it. If you go 2-4 again, then you're just playing out the string, and then you really have to question: do I keep Daboll? I wanted to ask you real quick though, for the player we were talking about a minute ago, Kayvon Thibodeau. We do have him for one more year. If the Giants were to lose this game with Philadelphia, the trade deadline comes up, what is it, November 4th, November 9th, something like that. Even though we have him one more year, that actually makes it more conducive to trading, because then another team is more willing to give up more, knowing that they got the player for more than just 1 year. If you know you're not going to give him, thank you, November 4th, Stephen. If you're not going to give him that deal, right, and I can't believe the Giants have decided yet, because you've got a lot of money locked up with Carter's going to have a lot of money. Burns has a lot of money. Lawrence has a lot of money. You've got a ton of money in your secondary. Are you going to pay another guy who's basically become – he's kind of like Byron Hunt of the outside linebackers versus a Carl Banks. He's solid. He doesn't get a lot of sacks. He's not going to – he doesn't do pass defense. He plays the run pretty well. But other than that, you're paying a lot of money. Are you going to give him that big contract that he's going to want when he might be the most tradable? So my question is, if they were to lose to Philadelphia and a team came a-calling, would you consider it, and what would it take?
I would listen. It would have to be something significant. Somebody said a third round. I'm not giving up a third round pick for Kayvon Thibodeau. It would have to be a bad team with a second round pick, or it'd have to be a first round pick to get him. And I've been one of those guys all along have said trade the guys before they leave in free agency. But I'm not giving up a third round. I'm not getting Kayvon. You're not getting if you get Kayvon Thibodeau style player for a third round pick, you did really well. The only thing I'll throw into this is, and Colin of the Great Blue North Draft Report has been talking about this, and as if Dave Del Coles, and I haven't seen him in chat, if he's out there listening, still addicted to the draft simulators. When I do them for the upcoming draft, and Colin's talked about this in terms of when he looks at his board too, the obvious talent that's going to be there when the Giants pick probably in the draft are at defensive line / edge. There are a couple of wide receivers that might interest them, and a couple of offensive line that might interest them. But the guys that really stick out in terms of talent with where they probably will be picking are these, again, defensive line players. There are some really good ones that are going to. So what I'm saying is they may be in position that when they're on the clock in April, that they may be looking at the defensive line again, which again is a numbers issue, which makes it easier to trade Kayvon at that point too. So I would listen, but I wouldn't give him. It would have to be a good deal. And you're right, because he's got a 1 year left on the contract. It makes him more tradable. I've said all along that I have a hard time seeing a situation where he definitely comes back to the Giants, given the money he's going to probably want, and the fact that he sees the writing on the wall with Abdul Carter. So, Abdul Carter is a better player than Kayvon Thibodeau. So it's going to come to the point where Kayvon is going to become, Abdul's going to take his spot. And Kayvon knows that. So if I'm him, I want to kind of get out of Dodge too at that point. So I'd listen, but I don't know how you feel, but I'm not giving him up for a third or lower.
If it is a third, I want a conditional pick in the following year, and that conditional pick could start no lower than a 4, and it goes up based on production. So if it's a 3 and a 3, or a 3 and a 4 conditional 4 that could become another 3, I'm probably doing it.
So you're doing it if someone offers you a 2, you're doing it.
Oh, if they give me a second round pick, then I'm doing it.
Okay.
If we lose to the Eagles, if the Giants win, I don't think you can't do that, because quite frankly, you are in position to make moves within your division. The only team above you at the top of the division would be the Eagles, and you would have already beaten them twice, assuming you won the game. Now you can't do that because you are fully in line with going after this division. You take care of business with your other divisional opponents. You win a few games here and there. All the other teams would be at 3 wins. The Eagles would be at 5 with 3 losses. So you would be chasing them, but you would have already swept them. You can't do that. If you lose that game, now you're really looking, okay, now we're 2-6 after 8 games. Regardless of what the ultimate end of the season is going to be, you're probably not chasing a playoff spot. So I'm thinking ahead.
Playoff.
And this is something the Giants don't do very well. This is the part about, and I don't know if ownership is part of this, and I think it is, where they hold on. And by the way, I blame fans for this too. There were so many people that were anti the Giants trading Saquon Barkley, even in 22, and certainly still in 23.
Not me. I was. I mean,
not you. But there are plenty of Giants fans that were all pissed. You can't do that and blah, blah, blah. They're the same ones that point and look at what Barkley did last year and you should have kept them. What he did with the Eagles has absolutely nothing to do with what he was doing with the Giants. You look at what he did with the Giants and where the Giants were each year with him, and I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. He was not producing wins for the Giants. It didn't matter. The Giants should have traded him when he was at the highest value they could have gotten for him and set themselves up going forward. Instead, they carried it through 22, and it was a magical year early on, and I understand why they did it. But in 23, when you started off so poorly and things were falling apart, you should have done it then.
Yeah. And they had trade offers. We know they did. I was lobbying for them to trade him which would have been impossible for them in terms of PR purposes. But it's on the site. I was lobbying them for the trade him halfway through 2022.
Yeah,
when
agreed.
He had a monster first half. I said, this is the time to trade him now. But if they had traded him, the uproar then the uproar would have been too much for the Giants. But it would have been the smart thing to do. And in 2023, like you just said, certainly at that point they should. And part of it was you're going to try to get something for him before you lost him for nothing, and you would have kept him away from a team that you don't want him to go to. So
it was right.
And then this isn't us talking about this in hindsight. You and I were talking about this.
Yes.
So this isn't us going like, so anyways.
So with that being said, I did put the link up at the top there, little code up there for our merch if you want to get, the cool, like the Inside BBI glass or the hoodie that I'm wearing right now. I am very happy, by the way. I can finally say stuff out loud. As of 5:05 p.m. yesterday, everything tied to the car accident back in March is taken care of. My lawyer came through. Shout out, that's a non-paid sponsor thing here. Just shout out to the Joy Law Firm for handling that and taking care of things, but came out very, very nicely overall. Thank you. Finally got all that taken care of, all the medical bills, all the good shit, everything taken care of. So I'm happy about that. Finally, some good news in 25.
Yes.
Because we've had a lot of bad news in 25. So that being said, I think we'll wrap it up. Please do me a favor. If you don't want to subscribe, that's fine. I totally understand. But if you could just like the episodes when we have a lot of views, but then the likes are a little low, YouTube does weird things with how they pump it out for other people to see. So if you could just, hit some likes on the episodes, I'd really appreciate it. That being said, I don't know what anybody else has planned, but try to enjoy your weekend. I'm going to go deal with some fence guys now. We're going to do a bunch of staining of a fence I just had put in. So I'm like, okay, got a lot of stuff to do today. So go Giants. Jalen Hyatt will have one catch over 40 yards. And then you can make fun of me next week if I'm totally wrong.
And Tay Banks is going to have an interception.
That was Eric. Because, again, the only thing I want intercepted is Tay Banks on the way to the field. So, all right, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you again at the beginning of next week.